This video will be short, but it's a topic that I've wanted to explore. Over the last 70 plus years of living in the age of nuclear weapons and the Cold War, the use and role of these weapons in warfare has been developed among the major powers. During and shortly after World War II, the US saw the nuclear bomb as simply a larger conventional bomb, and had plans to use them accordingly. However, over the years, the superpowers came to an understanding that, in the age of vast numbers of nuclear weapons, a war could simply not be won, thus creating the idea of mutually assured destruction. In essence, it's the ultimate Mexican standoff, with each side having the ability to completely destroy the other. This realization changed the thinking of nuclear weapons as just another bomb into the idea of nuclear deterrence. The weapons were confined to this role, and not used in conventional wars, such as the Gulf War for example. The immense power of nuclear weapons has given countries like North Korea, who has a relatively much weaker military, the ability to deter even the most advanced country's military might, like the US. With their medium-range ballistic missiles all but perfected, and intercontinental ballistic missiles nearly complete, and a small enough nuclear warhead to fit on top of them, North Korea has got to the point where they can inflict unacceptable levels of loss and destruction on any aggressor, such as the US, Japan, or South Korea. This has been North Korea's plan, self-preservation. Oftentimes, the media portrays North Korea and the Kim dynasty as madmen. This isn't the case. They have seen the governments of countries such as Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, and others quickly destroyed by more powerful military forces, and they discovered the only way to guarantee their survival is to develop capabilities to inflict massive losses on any aggressor. And on that same note, despite statements to the media, Kim Jong-un knows that there is no way they could survive if they attacked first. The only way North Korea would be the first to launch an attack is if they were 100% convinced that the US was about to attack them first. Since the beginning of time, the defender has typically had the advantage. They could remain fortified behind city walls and fight from a less exposed position. In the age of nuclear weapons, that has changed. Now it is the aggressor who has the advantage if the defender delays even for a half hour. So if North Korea believed that an attack on them by the US and allies was imminent, their strategy would be to go straight to the use of nuclear weapons. Targets of these weapons would be major military bases in the region. The goal would be to destroy the staging areas that the US would use in an attack. These targets would include bases such as Osan, Kunsan, Kadena, the US naval base at Yokosuka, and Guam, among others. These places are important locations the US would use to launch strikes on North Korea, so destruction of them would be vital. North Korean missile tests have shown us that they have launched missiles the exact same distance that these bases are from the launch site, just in a different direction. They are doing this to practice the accuracy of their missiles and also as a sign to the US. This is seen in pictures released from North Korean media of maps during the missile tests. They also have shown US bases such as Andersen Air Force Base in Guam as targets. Successfully destroying these bases would really hurt the US's ability to respond with a conventional attack. The US relies greatly on its air and naval power, and destroying their air bases would greatly diminish their ability there, and they could possibly destroy a large percentage of the US naval fleet, including the USS Ronald Reagan. For example, it is currently in port at Yokosuka undergoing maintenance. The US would then have to wait until more aircraft and carriers could arrive in the region, which could take a few days. And after such an attack, North Korea would still have their ICBMs which they could use in attempt to deter a nuclear attack on them by the US. And as we've all surely heard, Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump have talked about meeting in the next couple months. Despite what you may have heard in the media, the North Korean government has been pretty quiet on the issue. Most of the details come from the South Korean envoy that met with Kim recently, and from the US government. But South Korea has stated that Kim has talked about full denuclearization. If this is actually true, it'll undoubtedly come with conditions. One of the most likely of those conditions would be the complete withdrawal of the US from at least South Korea. If this is the actual deal, and somehow both sides fulfill their agreement, there would likely be no way to 100% verify that North Korea has eliminated all their nuclear weapons and abilities to make more. North Korea has hundreds of underground bunkers, in any of which they could hide away nuclear bombs and even missiles. Another goal of North Korea has always been to retake South Korea. This has been an objective of theirs ever since the end of World War II, and as soon as the US troops withdrew from the peninsula, the North invaded the South, starting the Korean War in 1950. It is possible that they could try this again at some point in the future if the US did withdraw from the South. However, this time, they would have the advantage of having any nuclear weapons that they hid away. and at which point they could attempt to scare the US from joining in to protect the South by threatening to launch nuclear-armed ICBMs at the US if they did. This scenario, however, may not be realistic for several reasons. First, South Korea has a relatively much more capable military compared to the North than they did at the start of the Korean War. While the North has one of the largest armies in the world in terms of manpower, South Korea is not far behind when accounting for both nations' reserved forces. Also, weapon ranges have increased drastically since the 50s. South Korea has short and medium-range cruise and ballistic missiles with the ability to hit targets anywhere in North Korea. So either way, it'll be interesting to see what comes of the meeting, if it does occur. Personally, I cannot see North Korea ever giving up their nuclear weapons. They are the greatest defense a nation can possibly have. Never before have two nuclear powers fought each other directly, and North Korea knows this. They've seen other authoritarian regimes without nuclear weapons like Libya and Iraq fall very quickly. The most likely result is that the status quo will remain the same. North Korea will continue to develop their nuclear warheads and missiles, and the US and its allies will continue to put pressure on the country for the foreseeable future. Also, I've never yet mentioned this verbally, but if you have the ability, I would really appreciate it if you can consider supporting me on Patreon. A lot of work goes into creating each one of these videos, and as you may have heard, ad revenue isn't what it used to be, especially in content related to war. If you can't though, that is fine. Your support by watching and subscribing is greatly appreciated. Thank you.